Welcome to Crosstown Cardboard episode 4. I'm Carmine at Carmine's Cards, and on the other side of New York City from me on Long Island is Craig at New York City Sports Cards. He's the teacher, I'm the broadcaster, and today's episode number 4 is called Card Show Setup: How to Act Right. And by the way, act right. And by the way, this is just our opinion on how to act right. Of course, you can act right in a different way. You could think we're acting wrong, but this is just our gauge on, the etiquette at a card show. If you're a dealer, if you're a customer, just walking the tables, and kind of how that whole situation shakes out. So thanks everybody for, if this is your first episode, hanging out with us. Me and Craig just kind of goof around and hopefully offer a little bit of sports card takes and knowledge and opinions. And or if this is your first time hanging out with us, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming back. If not, so Craig, first of all, we're both dressed in our New York outfits. Yours is almost a Halloween costume. If you're not watching on the Crosstown Cardboard YouTube, he's got an old school Bernard King, Walt Frazier-esque New York Knicks warm up with the lapel. I mean, what's going on? What's the story behind that outfit?
You're so spot on, because this is what I wore to school for Halloween, and that's why I have it out still. And one of my coworkers actually said, "Okay, I see you, Bernard King." But
Nice.
There is a matching. This is like a 1980s type retro Knicks jacket. But where I got this from? So Tobias Harris, who's a forward on the 76ers,
Right,
is a childhood friend of mine.
okay.
So for my bar mitzvah, when I turned 13, Tobias gifted me this Knicks jumpsuit.
No
And
way.
there's actually matching pants to go with it, but you don't need to see my bottom right now. So I'm not going to wear the pants, but this is from a clothing company called Unique All Stars, and Tobias's dad owns the company. So he gifted me a Knicks jumpsuit, and here I am 17 years later, still fits great.
That is sick. Are you still, once in a while checking in with Toby?
I was at his wedding this summer, so all the Sixers were there. That was a good time.
Wow.
That's a conversation for another day. I didn't get a chance to talk cards with any of the 76ers. Didn't seem like the time and place.
Yeah, you're like, can you sign my? I'll probably put that away for now.
But Carmine, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I wanted to reveal here on the pod that I took a next level up in my card journey, and I'll be setting up at the San Francisco card show. So just about an hour and a half plane flight. Me and my girlfriend are going to make a trip out of it. We're going to fly in Saturday morning. It's only an hour and a half flight, like I said, from here in Southern Oregon. Set up Saturday, do the whole show, and then Sunday, see the sights, and then Monday morning, pop back here. And so that'll be a great one. There's supposed to be 250 tables.
And you're set up.
Yeah, so I'm setting up. Yeah.
Very nice.
At the South San Francisco Conference Center. If anybody wants to come, Spud Webb will be there. So that's
opening. Is that where he's opening the box of 86 Fleer?
I don't know. It could be,
I heard
because
that's a thing.
There's a big reveal.
I'm picturing a promo video of you at the show with E40 in the background.
Oh,
yeah. Just the San Francisco music reference, but nice.
No,
dude.
no, I love it.
You're gonna crush it. I got no doubt.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm interested to see if stuff like this Tiger or the Dennis Rodman, higher 3- and 4-figure cards, will be more movable. And then, I'll film some stuff there for the podcast, and then of course bring back, my opinion of how it went. And that'll be in 2 weekends. That's November 12th. Saturday is when I'll be there. So if you're in the Bay Area, or if you're coming in, that's the week after the Dallas card show. So, and then, the Nashville card show was just recently. A lot of big stuff going on, even though, you might see the prices of cards going down a little bit, depending on what market you're looking at. It seems like these big shows are still going strong. So I'm interested to see the first big show that I set up at, really. I mean, I did set up in Portland, but we'll see what is to come of this. And it ties into our topic of how to act right. So Craig, we wanted to jump into some of the etiquette of being a dealer, or some things that we've noticed about sports card shows and the interaction of how it should go.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. I feel good today. I feel loose. I had a
You
yoga
look good.
class a couple hours ago, so I'm feeling like a PSA Zen. But let's get to it.
Oh my God. How long were you waiting to drop that line?
I came up with that joke about 2 hours ago, tested it out on my wife based on her cringe level. I'm like, yep, this is a go.
Hey, cringe is good. The healthy cringe is sometimes good. Oh, but before we jump into the PSA Zen, we want
Pickups?
to talk about some of our pickups. So
Boom.
what did you pick up recently? Some cards that you wanted to show off.
So a couple small soccer ones, just the players I like. Nice liquid cards. We got a second-year select Neymar in his Brazil uniform in a silver. So 2016 select silver PSA 10. Nothing crazy,
Okay.
nice and simple. And a Erling Haaland 2020-2021 Topps Chrome Pink X Factor in a CSG 10. I kind of like the CSG case. Just
Okay.
again, players I like, graded a 10, nice and liquid. Good to have inventory with the World Cup coming up, and yeah, just a couple
Right.
cool ones. I had a cool flip though that I think you'll appreciate. When I
Okay.
was at Cards and Coffee, which is the card show extension of Bleecker, a few weeks back, I found this Kevin Knox 1819 Contenders Championship ticket in a BGS 9.5, a true one of one. And it's kind
Rookie,
of one
was
of
that
those.
rookie year or
Yes, that is his
okay.
rookie year. And it's kind of one of those one of ones where if there wasn't a one of one stamp on it, it kind of just looks like any other insert. So it was labeled $10. I'm friends with the guys there. So I'm like, yo, I just found this 101 for $10. They're like, yeah, we must have missed that. So $10, picked up a Kevin Knox true 101. It's got the 101 stamp on it. And I listed it on eBay for 7-day auction. Got $50. Quick 5x profit right there. But I was able to sell a Knicks one of one as I'm in my Knicks jumpsuit, and I picked up a new Knicks one of one last night.
Oh
NY
boy.
Giants Rarities on Instagram had a story sale, and he was posting a bunch of one of ones, shields, cool patches. And this one caught my eye and brought up a whole bunch of nostalgia. If you're a Knicks fan, I know you know David Lee, one of the
Yes,
bright.
I used to go to David Lee camps all the time. He actually knew my name once upon a time because I was one of the better players at the David Lee camps.
Humble brag, huh? So this David Lee was one of the bright spots in some tough Knicks years, but this is a 2009-2010 Timeless Treasures game worn laundry tag. You see the
Ooh,
06-07. That was like right when he was early on in the Knicks, putting up 2010 every night. And just like the Kevin Knox, this is a true 101.
wow, that's a cool
Game
one.
worn, the type of card that, I like picking up unique Knicks stuff, and this definitely fits the mold of that. I don't know how many people out there would be interested in this card, but it's for my PC. This brings me back to my good days as a Knicks fan. So this is 2009-2010 Timeless Treasures, David Lee, game worn laundry tag, numbered 1/1. Just a cool one for the Knicks PC.
That's an awesome pickup, bro. Good for you.
Talk to me about yours.
Okay, I will. And by the way, I know Craig's a little bit blurry on his end with the technology, but we'll get some photos and we'll overlay them across the video for people who are, wondering. They want to see the David Lee magic. Which, by the way, I don't know if you remember in the rookie and sophomore game when David Lee was a sophomore, he went 15 for 15 in that game. Incredible performance.
I'm assuming it was a bunch of layups.
I think he might have thrown a couple mid-range in there, but
Yeah, he had a little midi, but he was a
did.
southpaw.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And people from New York, they must be loving this. Other people, maybe not. But hey, guess what? If you are a Chicago viewer, we have this Zach LaVine Cornerstones game used patch on card auto at a 25. So that's one of my recent pickups.
Cornerstones is an underrated product. I always like the look
I
of those quad
know.
patches.
Yeah, and especially if they're game used. As our few faithful listeners know, through 4 episodes, we love game used. How about this Randy Moss Kaboom I picked up? And it has the print line that a lot of these Kabooms have, so I don't know if I'll grade it, but
Still looks
other
good
than
in a
that,
one touch.
it looks good, yeah. I picked up this one you might like. This The Game.
I saw that.
Hate It or Love It.
Nice. Very
Nice
nice.
game reference, and it's numbered 1 out of 3. I love these
Sweet.
pop centuries. I'm always trying to pick up these.
I think we could do a whole episode on this, on how like alternate type autographs, game worn stuff, rappers, actors would be super cool, and I think resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, hitting a different market. I'm looking at a Kourtney Kardashian rookie
Mm.
auto right now that I might make a move on because my girlfriend forces me to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. So I figured maybe that could be a bridge.
Don't
You
act
know,
like you don't like it.
the drama's good. The drama's good, and Scott Disick's dry humor is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Here's another one, which I feel like is almost like like I don't know if I should be wearing a Yankees Babe Ruth jersey while holding up this card, which is the big unit, Randy Johnson, Ultimate Collection, numbered out of 30, game used patch, auto, sticker auto, but it's a BGS 9.5. And pretty cool 3-color game used patch there.
You know what I like about that one? His
Yeah.
signature I always liked. Very distinct. Something about it. It's almost like
Yeah.
he's got great penmanship.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
You can,
Randy Johnson. He's got a 100-mile-per-hour fastball and great penmanship.
Hey, it's a what was the Wedding Crashers reference you made?
Built for speed or for comfort.
See, and he's both. So here's
We'll go with it.
I try to work it in. Sometimes it doesn't work, but you have to try. And here's the last one that I picked up.
Swing and a miss, like a
Yeah.
lot of Randy Johnson's batters that he faced, as you were.
Hey, exactly. I just whiffed, but here's a home run with Magic Johnson and Derrick Rose, dual auto, and it's Magic Johnson's all-rookie team, numbered out of 39. So kind of cool.
Is that from Topps Treasury?
This is top certified. Oh, wait, no.
Here we go.
Yes, you're right. You're an expert.
Again.
Topps Treasury.
You know what's cool about that product, other than the Derrick Rose Magic Johnson dual autograph that you're holding, is that set actually came with money in it. So you could pull a card, like a rip card, like an Allen Ginter $100 bill.
Really?
Get it? Topps Treasury, like the money. It actually came with money in the packs.
Wow.
Awesome.
Okay.
Listen, the Topps products back then, they don't make them like they used to. But yeah, I'd love to get my hands on a box of that to rip.
Huh. Okay, that's a fun little look at what you find on Crosstown Cardboard. A little treasure.
I like it. And that's Magic and Rose. That's a cool combination.
Magic and Rose. And I don't know, this is either the only card that they're both on or one of the very few with these two, and this is Derrick Rose's rookie year. So kind of a cool deal there.
And everyone knows you're a dual autograph guy.
I'm big into dual autos all of a sudden. You see Dennis and Kevin Garnett. All right, so Craig, we covered, Halloween. We covered a little bit of off-topic New York stuff, which is, off-topic for us is on topic. And we covered our pickups. So what do we have here about how to act right at a card show?
So I want to try to cover some topics that you maybe might not hear elsewhere. For example, right off the bat, my question for you, Carmine, and maybe you didn't even think about this, but when you are set up at the San Francisco Card Show on November 12th, do you plan on sitting at your table or standing at your table?
This is a great question. And I think it all depends on the vibe. I think a lot of this is going to depend on the feeling in the room, how many people are there. So I'm hoping it's really busy. 250 tables and San Francisco, which is in TV terms, it's a top 10 market as far as population in that area in the country. And so I feel like I'll be standing because I'm hoping to be wheeling and dealing, meeting a lot of people who don't have that much time. It's kind of a little bit quicker paced, I'm assuming, with a lot of people in the South San Francisco Conference Center. So for this one, I'll be standing. If it was a lot less busy and, people are coming by every once in a while, sitting might be a better option.
Yeah, fair. I mean, look, that's a pretty vague question, but the reason I bring that up is, it's hard to stand for 9 hours. You're going to get really tired. And that's probably why I usually get a headache after I set up at card shows. But the reason I say that is because I always find that the people who are up and standing, it's like they're ready to engage in conversation. They're ready to greet you. And nothing wrong with sitting. Like, yeah, we need to give our legs a rest, but it just, it's a little more welcoming, I have found. when I see
Yeah.
a vendor and they're standing. It's like they're excited, they're engaged, they want not just your business, but to interact. And
Yeah.
you being a social, outgoing person, I anticipate you will have a lot of good conversation. So I'm curious. Now it's going to be in your head, the sitting, standing thing. I want you to look around and notice what others are doing.
Yeah, because I have to, read the room and kind of get that feel. So speaking of sitting or standing when you're behind the dealer table, I wanted to flip it back and ask you this question, Craig. When somebody comes up to your table, and of course you're mostly doing shows in the Northeast, what's your style of greeting that person? Or, how do you first engage the person when they come to your table?
So another question I had for you was, do you plan on engaging in conversation, or are you going to be all business? I personally, I make it a point, no matter who it is, I try to say hello, kind of ask the person how they're doing, get to know the person before you make a deal. And you'd be surprised at how many people don't do that. And it is all business. Again, I'm only talking about the small sample size of shows I've been to. But generally speaking, if you're going to go buy from someone, wouldn't you want to buy from someone who's taking an interest in you, taking an interest in what you like, and just getting to know the person first? That's how you create, that's networking, right? That's how you create conversation. If your conversation is all price, business, cards, I don't know, maybe that person might not leave your table with a good feeling. So take your time to ask the person how their day's doing, how their show's going, find out, who or what they collect. And then naturally the deals start to, emerge.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. As far as the second I feel, if I'm a customer or if I'm somebody walking the show, the second I feel somebody's pushing a card on me, I get the ick. And I don't know if you've heard that term before, but my girlfriend told me about it. Thankfully, she hasn't felt it about me yet. But it's like when somebody does something and you're turned off,
Right.
and then it's kind of like it's hard to come back from that. So if I feel somebody's pushing that on me, and I don't know, I would love to get your feel of this, Craig. And I've mainly been to much slower shows than what you've been to, like Portland, Southern Oregon, Northern California, 10 to 15 tables. Portland was like 50. That was, much more. But usually somebody comes up to my table and, I have my display case, I have my box with cheaper cards, I have some of my mid-range cards laid out, and they're looking, and I'll just say, "Hey, sir, how you doing?" And they'll say, "Pretty good. How about you?" And I'll say, "Oh, not bad, pretty good." And I'll just let them look. Like or if you walk into a store and somebody comes up, "Hey, can I help you guys?" "Oh, we're just looking around." "Okay." And then I want to be left alone, usually. So that's what I try to do. And then, if they're wearing some type of sports memorabilia, if they got a certain team, "Oh, you like the Knicks? Man, we got to get rid of Julius Randle," or whatever, might come up if they're wearing a certain team. But I usually like to let them just look. I don't know what you think about the next level after greeting somebody. How do you proceed from there?
Depends on the person too. Even though you and I are a little more, you're like a people's person. You like to talk. Not everyone is. So some people just want to look, but at least the hello, at least the how are you doing? And it's like you walk into a clothing store. How would you feel if nobody greets you and doesn't give you the time of day? I'd be turned off. You know. Another important question I want to ask you: do you plan? And I know you know the prices of all your cards in your head. Do you plan on putting sticker prices on your cards or not? Because I can make an argument for both.
Great question. And I always put my sticker prices on my cards. And I would love to hear what you think about whether or not, like, the pros and cons. Like, for example, I have this Vince Carter logo man.
Sick. I like that
I
one.
have 550 on there, game used. And then, like this Jamal Murray RPA Immaculate at a 99. I have 500, which is a little high now. So I might have to reprice my cards before heading to San Francisco. But I always put my prices on my cards because personally, and I try to get in the mind of, if I was a buyer, if I was coming up to your table, how would I like to be treated? Almost like the golden rule, but for cards. And I want to know a baseline of where you're at on your price. Because if you're 50% over comps, I'm not even going to start the conversation on that card. if you're around comps like 10% higher or so, then at least that gives us a starting point to have a conversation. And I don't want everybody to be asking like, where are you at on this? Where are you at on this? And then all the conversation is centered on is where you're at on your card price wise, rather than like you mentioned, if they're just scanning the cards and they see price, 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 price on every card, now we can talk about a little bit more of either the players or whatever team they like, and more so like whatever conversation comes up, rather than mainly focusing around the price of the card. So I always price my stuff personally, but I would love to
Yeah.
hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I've definitely done shows where I've priced, and I've done shows where I haven't, and I can't really recall if there was much of a difference. Obviously,
Okay.
by pricing everything, you avoid having to ask, how much is this? How much is this? How much is this?
Right.
But if someone sees a price on a card they like, they may be turned off already. But the argument for not pricing it would be, if you know someone's interested in a card, they're gonna ask about it. But if there's no price on it.
Right.
The other thing, and I kind of found myself sometimes if I'm looking at an Instagram story or a Facebook post, looking at cards, and I will look at the price almost at the same time as the card, which kind of clouds whether or not I really want it. So I try when I'm looking at cards sometimes to ignore the price, just look at the card and say, okay, forget about what the price is. Is this a card I would want? And then I would look at the price. That way,
Okay.
the price of it isn't affecting whether or not I actually want it. I think you're making the right move in pricing them. It cancels out a lot of unnecessary conversation and back and forth. It gives you a place to start, and I think customers will appreciate that. So, smart move there.
Well, thanks, Craig. And I was also thinking, I kind of wanted to touch a little bit more on this because our buddies over at Cousins Collectibles made a great point about card show etiquette, or just, I mean, really just general respect for the other person who's enjoying this hobby with you. Like if you're either texting or Instagramming or whatever you're doing on your phone, you're not looking up to greet the person, look them in the eye, give them the time of day, like you mentioned, give them respect when they come to your table. It seems like they're doing you a favor by trying to have you sell them a card. It's like, you definitely don't want to take that approach. I mean, I think every single person should be greeted and, at least a hello, how's it going? Something like that. And then, similar to what you said about reading the person, like you could tell if somebody either is kind of perusing, they might be open a conversation. If they start a conversation with you, even easier. Or you could tell if somebody just, is giving you shorter answers. They just want to be left alone and look around, which nothing wrong with that either. So I was curious, are you going to price your cards going forward, or do you plan to go back and forth on that?
I probably will end up pricing them. Honestly, I find it fun pricing them too. Going
Yeah.
through previous sales and comping. It's fun. It's very therapeutic in a way. You did reference Cousins Collectibles. I want to shout out Tony for getting his swagger back.
Oh, he did? I know he was in the dumps. He was talking about some mishaps in the card world.
Tony's back. So shout out Cousin Tony and Cousin Oz.
Okay, the people's mailman and Cousin Tony, the architect.
You already know. All right. Another thing. When you are planning on selling a card at a card show, do you plan on giving a little background about the card itself? What I mean by that is, there you have a Kevin Garnett, Dennis Rodman dual autograph right behind you.
Right.
Do you consciously plan on telling someone who's interested in that, this came from this set this year, it's upper deck, it's game worn, you don't really find a lot of duels of this guy? Like, how important is it for you to give more of a background about that card, the set, the year, to educate the person before they're buying it? Is that something that you have done in the past?
Oh, yeah. I think that's huge. I think that's huge because every card has a story. And I think, like, if it's something obvious, then I wouldn't bring it up. Like, but there's so many things to say about that card, which if you're telling, I would be very conscious of telling the story of the card and why you like it, rather than here's why you should buy it, which is a small difference. But like I said before, if you get that feeling where this person's pushing the card on you, then, it's a little bit more of a contentious situation. But if you're just explaining why you think the card is cool, which going back a few episodes, that's another reason why I referenced buying things you like. If I'm just telling you why I think this card's cool, these two guys had so much attitude, and I've done a lot of research, and this is the only dual auto I can find of Kevin Garnett and Dennis Rodman on the same card. They might be like, wow, that's so cool, but that's why I think it's cool. Right. So, that I wouldn't just come up with any reason to talk more about the card. But if it's something unique like that, then I'll have a story to back it up, and kind of explain a little bit more.
The reason I think that's so important too is if you're relatively new to the hobby, all you know is Panini, right? You don't know Upper Deck basketball, Topps basketball, Fleer basketball. So all you're doing is educating people on these older sets, because I grew up with all the mid 2000s, like 2000, 2010, all these various basketball products, Fleer, Maximum, but it was different then, but it helps broaden people's horizons on what is available.
Yeah, like Ultimate Collection, Exquisite. Now let me flip it on you, Craig. As far as more on the card show side, where do you price your cards? Because we mentioned, both of us, you're a math teacher. We both really like the numbers and the research behind putting our prices on cards. If you're laying them out either in a story sale or on Facebook or at a card show, you see a comp, how does that affect your pricing? Where do you price your cards?
It's not a perfect science, but it's got to be a combination, some sort of combination of comps and what you paid.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, you're making money on everything. You're making money on a card you sell. That's not always the case. But like you said, if you try to list something 50% over comps, no one's going to sell it. So some sort of middle ground between the two. I try to pick up stuff that, again, doesn't really have a ton of recent sales, but you want the customer to be happy, right? You want them to get a card at a reasonable price that they like. So if you have to take a loss on it, is what it is. I always say, if I'm selling a card at a show, I want my table to be the cheapest place you could find that card. If you can go buy this card on eBay right now for $50, why would I sell it for 60? I want this one to be the cheapest available.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a tough one too, because you might run into a situation like I did with this Gronkowski where, you buy it and the comps are at a certain level. This is a Rob Gronkowski on the Buccaneers, Panini 1 matchless on-card auto at a 10. So when I bought it, it was, at a good price. I bought it for like $350. But now there's a sale, of a Panini 1 Gronk out of 4, out of 5, out of 10, and they're all like $250, $275, $225. So I'm going to have to reprice it to be more competitive. I feel like I usually, just to explain my side on the pricing, I usually go like maybe 10% over comps just to have a little room. So even if we end up selling, let's say for 90% of comps, it'll feel like we negotiated to more of a middle ground and you got a better deal. But you never want to offend somebody with your price. Like you said, I mean, you could turn them off in a snap if your prices are just way too high.
Agreed. Last 2 points, kind of related here. One of them regarding kids at card shows. If you are a dealer at a card show, this is very easy for me to say. I work with kids every single day. You have to go out of your way to make the experience better for a child.
Yes.
If you are grumpy, you don't give them the time of day, that is a bad memory that kid is forming. But if you are super nice to a kid, you ask them what they like, you give them a card or two, trust me, that kid's going to remember that. I remember going to card shows when I was 8 or 9. I remember vendors who are still around to this day who were nice to me. Kindness goes a long way. You see a child, give them a free card, talk to them, look at their collection, tell them how cool it is, even if it's not your cup of tea. Make that kid's experience as great as you can, even if the other tables aren't. That kid's going to remember that. He's going to come back to shows. Similarly, when someone comes to you with a box, hey, are you buying? Hey, are you looking? One, I think you're crazy to say no to that.
Right.
Because you never know what you're going to find. Don't judge a book by their cover. someone comes up to your table, you never know what kind of grails they're sitting on. 2, you look at it, it may be a bunch of junk. It takes 2 seconds to say, hey, you got some really cool stuff right here. It's just not for me. Thank you for showing me. Instead of just, nah, I'm good. So
Yeah.
both of those, the kids and the people coming over, it just comes into back to etiquette at the show, just being kind, giving people even a minute, a time a day. So even if they weren't able to sell anything like they were trying to, at least you had a positive experience for them.
Couldn't agree more. And I love how, passionate and, clearly you were really meaning that. And that's great. And that's what I think, the few people right now we have, like, 250 listeners across 3 episodes. That's the type of meaningful stuff that we really want to put out there. And just to piggyback and add more onto that great point, Craig, guy came up at the Portland show and he's like, oh, I got all these old cards. Would you mind taking a look? Of course I said yes, because you never know what can happen. And it's just a fun time looking through cards. So I ended up picking up this triple photo of
Sick.
3 awesome guys: Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, in the iconic Dream Team photo shoot. The passing of the torch between Larry Bird, Magic, and then passing the torch to Michael Jordan. And then, of course, he went on to win 6 titles. But this is probably like a $15, $20 card, and the guy had it in his collection. And I've always loved this photo and the video about, they're joking around with each other in the photo shoot. And so I just ended up picking up 1 card from him, and, just a pretty cool Superstars edition is what it's called. But yeah, so that goes back to your point. And then another quick point on that, I was at the Mount Shasta card show in Mount Shasta, California, Northern California, at a high school.
The Mount Shasta card show at Mount Shasta.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly. I mean, how did they come up with these names? So the wordplay is incredible. And but anyway, I was, some of the kids there were ripping cards, and then they were just bringing up whatever they ripped, trying to trade me. They're like, hey, do you want this? It's like base cards of, whatever football year. And so this kid comes up a couple times. He's like, hey, I really want that Herbert. And so we're like negotiating. It was like a $10 rookie Herbert, like an absolute Herbert. And, he came up one time and I was like, oh, I'm not really interested in that. And then the second time he came up, I was like, just take the Herbert. It's free. It's yours. And he's like, what? Oh my goodness. I can't believe it. Thank you so much. And like you just spoke to, that's hopefully a memory that he'll have, for like a $5 or $10 card that gave this kid a jolt of excitement, bringing him in or her in, in a different situation, to a hobby that we love, to continue to grow that community and provide an opportunity for those great, like, heartwarming moments. I know it sounds corny, but I mean, there's not that many avenues where you can have an impact on somebody's life, and cards is one of them. So
you're a man of the people. I think we pretty much covered, again, we tried to cover some parts about being at a card show that I don't really hear others discuss. So hopefully that resonates with some people. But on that note that you just said, we are 2 sessions into Card Club at my high school.
Let's go.
We had a pretty good turnout for the first one. We had a meeting today that I texted very last minute, kind of like whoever's around stick after school. But I'm starting to see the handful of kids who are really into it. We got the cards in their hands. We're starting to teach them basic stuff like what a game-worn card is, what a graded card is, the difference in parallels. Like, you got this green parallel that's numbered, this orange parallel that's numbered. But I have to remind myself that trying to teach someone all about cards is not going to take 1 session. It's not going to take 2 sessions. It's going to take a long time. But the engagement is there. The kids are staying after school. We got the cards in their hands, and I look forward to more meetings.
That's great. That's great to hear. I mean, speaking of it having an impact on kids, that is a major one that you've been, having for a couple years. How long is Card Club? Which, by the way, if you're just tuning in, this might be your first episode. Card Club is a club that Craig started in the New York City Public School District at his high school. And, just an after-school club where kids come, and a lot of donations for free cards. They rip packs and stuff like that. I mean, it's your club, Craig. So what should people know about, like, what you initially teach these kids at Card Club? I mean, you mentioned the game used cards, but like, what are the baselines to start learning about cards? Because we did that, 20 years ago now.
Well, the idea is really just to create like a safe space for them to hang out. The way I describe it best is if you want to go hang out with some friends and go grab a beer and talk sports, we're hanging out, but instead of grabbing a beer, we're looking at cards. Looking at cards, we're hanging, we're talking sports, and then a little bit of the conversation goes to like, oh, here's how much this card is worth. Oh, here's where you could sell the cards. Oh, but let's not forget, it's not all about the money. So make sure you collect the players and the teams that you like. I try to always reemphasize that point. So they're not all just like tunnel vision about the money. But it's been fun so far. It's a whole new crop of students. They have a lot to learn, and I think it's going to be another successful year at the club.
And what are these kids looking for? Like, what players, what sports? I mean, who are the like top guys? Because me and you are a little bit more old school dudes. As I feel like we're old souls. I mean, only being me 28 and you freshly 30. What's the ear to the ground on these high school kids? Like, what are they looking for?
It's early, but I've heard multiple Steph Curry, Ja Morant, and actually a lot of New York Mets.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll start to make some requests perhaps once I find out what certain students want, because I'm like, hey, if you guys want a player, let me know. I will do my best to try to find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds
But,
great. I mean, Ja Morant makes a lot of sense he's so exciting.
They're growing up with watching him, right? So this is their guy. But Carmine, I think next week, I've tried not to do too much soccer talk yet, but the World Cup is 3 weeks away. Whether it's next week or the one after, we're going to have to get into a little soccer talk.
I love soccer. Hey, as you know, I am a 1-year fan of FC Barcelona after going to Spain on a friend's wedding. So why don't we give a little preview, Craig? I mean, you have the card of Ronaldo and Messi behind you. What should some non-soccer fans, which are probably most people listening, what should they expect about the World Cup that's right around the corner in Qatar?
I think we should save that for next week.
Oh
Maybe
my
a little
gosh.
preview. I am going to make it simple for non-soccer players to most easily understand and give some entryways if you want to get into soccer cards. How about that? Little teaser for next week.
Okay. And I'll hold on to a soccer card of a goat that I have. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm not going to reveal it just yet. Okay. It's you know how we did the Mount Rushmore last week? Yeah. This guy would be on the Mount Rushmore of soccer, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I look forward to seeing that.
All right. Any last words before we sign off there, partner?
Keep the feedback coming. Keep the questions coming. However many people listen to this, like we always say, this is fun. We just enjoy talking about cards, and hopefully you got something out of this episode.
Yes, and you got the importance of the connections, hopefully, through the card show etiquette and how to act right.
Boom.
All right. See you in a week for episode 5. We're growing fast.
Almost double digits.
We're closing in. All right, Crosstown Cardboard. Out.
Peace.